suspenseful and protracted election has come to an end. After the results of the votes were declared, it was taken up before the Supreme Court for scrutiny to make sure, beyond all doubt, that the will of the people had prevailed.
In our view, there is neither a legally and validly declared winner nor a president-elect. Mr. Chebukati's announcement purporting to announce a winner is a nullity.
We have considerable difference in appreciating how the Constitution can be amended to accommodate the position of a leader of official opposition.
It's about time we deal decisively with the cyclic violence that afflicts our country during and after elections. The solution lies in our duty as patriotic citizens to believe in and abide by our Constitution, which provides adequate safeguards for free and fair elections. This conference has assembled practitioners who will add immense value as we think through electoral law reform for the 2022-2027 cycle. I am of the view that given the dynamic nature of Kenya's political and socio-economic landscape, it is necessary that discussions on the electoral law reforms should begin immediately and that enactment of necessary electoral laws be done at least 12 months before the 2027 elections.
Right, that's a big issue as well, that we have some seats that will be lost if the boundary crisis persists and the constitution of the IBC with the commissioners is not done immediately. This is a constitutional crisis that is looming. There's a separate bid also to reduce constituencies to 100, which is before the dialogue team. And also the current protected constituencies are listed here. A hot potato issue it is ahead of the boundaries review. A member of House Justice Committee revealed 67 constituencies now risk being scrapped as they do not meet the average population size. And that story is tucked away on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. As we continue to discuss also the ticklish issue regarding the editorial cartoon that we do have today about IBC and how it delivered, it has been one of a central issue that has been the point of focus there at the National Dialogue Committee. I know some of the feelings that really comes when we hear those clips here. It don't want to take us back on that particular moment, but we cannot really address the wound if it is still festering. We need to actually deal with it decisively. And as we've heard from the Prime Cabinet Secretary, all these issues need to be dealt with before we head to 2027 elections. It's a pity that we always talk about the cyclic issues about elections when people now should be working. But Prof, let's just expound on that conversation. I don't know if you've finished on that particular beat about previous, what really happened. But moving forward, even with the issue of the boundaries and what we have right now with the former Attorney General saying we should scrap the women rep seats, we should also reduce the counties. I think it has been suggested by other legislators that we should increase the counties. Yeah. We've seen also members of Sabaot, they want their own county. We have a Korea community as well. Teso. They feel marginalized, Teso, and amongst others.
Yeah, first of all, let me just rejoin my friend when he says that Ruto is very shrewd and very competent. If he is competent, why is the economy misperforming? There are so many other things to show he is not competent. When he was a minister for education, can you just show me one thing you can say he ticked this? For me, when Michuki,
he bridged the gap
when
of
joining minister
university
for transport, he introduced the belt in a matatu. It is tangible, it is rememberable, it's memorable, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And it's a transformative thing. I don't see throughout where Ruto was even as deputy president. Just tell me, this one he delivered as deputy president for 10 years. So performance should be your godfather, isn't it? If he's very competent, we should be seeing it happening. He has just given us ministers that are almost incompetent, but by design so that they don't perform, but also he looks the most brilliant person. A competent person do not fear having very competent people near them. And if William Ruto was very competent, he could be having a very competent cabinet. Uhuru did not want to worry whether he was good or not. He had Magoha. Now, Uhuru had Magoha for Minister of Education. He has Machogu as minister. The CV pages of Machogu and Magoha, the competence, Uhuru had a cabinet that could tell him, Mr. President, this cannot happen. Do you think there's anybody, when President Ruto is chairing the cabinet, is there any minister who can tell him, Mr. President, this is wrong? All of them say, yes, 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 and adore him. But let me give you a theory. In strategy, there's a theory called wingman theory.
Yes.
Wingman theory states that if you are not very brilliant, you are going for a date, and you want to look very brilliant, carry someone who is not so brilliant, so that as he looks stupid, you look very brilliant.
It elevates you, yes.
It elevates you. For example, if you are a black man standing next to a very light lady or a light man, you look very dark and that will look very light. If you are on a background which is white and you are dark, your darkness comes out very clear. And if you are not so dark and you stand next to not so dark person, you start becoming light. Like, for example, Martin, if you go to Juba, they will say you are light. In fact,
is true.
Yes. And even me, but those guys are actually blue. They are dark that actually they are bluish. So if I go to Juba, I look light. But when I walk in Nairobi, everyone says I'm very dark. So Ruto is very brilliant because he's been running against Raila, who is not that much brilliant. He's been working with this. No, this guy since 1992. Look at the players.
What is the metrics of brilliance? You know, we have the different intelligences.
Performance. Mintzberg says that intelligence should be seen in what you deliver, not just trying to measure IQ using a ruler. Intelligence doesn't mean you got an A. Intelligence means have you performed, isn't it?
I think here also in the country, intelligence is equated to eloquence. So if you're eloquent on the podium, we deem you to be intelligent.
When he talks about delivery,
I talk about delivery.
You should give
Raila has run for election 5 times, isn't it? Which means he's lost to 5 opponents. Ruto runs with him for the first time and beats him. Raila was beaten by Uhuru, who lost once, then beat him. So the common denominator of Raila losing could also to do with competence, how he manages the campaign and how he runs. Remember in 2007, Raila ran against Kibaki. Do you know Kibaki was not a very brilliant person in politics, but he was a very brilliant person in economy. And Kibaki struggled with politics. Remember that Kibaki had us doing double-digit growth in the first term, and he struggled to win second term. Actually, people say, Raila beat him. And what happened in 2007, what I hear from the intelligence report I have is that the guys who are working for Kibaki were trying to steal some votes for him, but they discovered Raila was actually doing much more in his staff. So in the end, they found out that, my goodness, we didn't know he was doing that. So the numbers were not mathing. That's why Tharaka Nithi now came to overturn. Which means that Kibaki was not as brilliant. So you remember they were very close neck to neck. But you see, Ruto understood Raila. And let me introduce another strategic theory which is called theory of victory. Theory of victory, Martin, if I want to beat you, I have to understand, how are you planning to beat me? If you're planning to beat me by even taking away my money and maybe ensuring I don't have money, then once I know that, I'll ensure I lock you out of accessing my money. In military strategy, when Japan was going to fight with Russia, Russia knew that they were the superpower. Actually, Russia was more powerful than... Japan was more powerful than Russia. So what did Russia do? They knew that Russia... Japan knew that... Russia knew that Japan was thinking about accessing a certain peninsula, then after that launching the war against Russia from the peninsula next to Russia. And to get that, Japan had to take control of the sea next to that peninsula. So what did Russia do? They knew they were very poor in ground forces, But they invested all their money and effort in winning the sea war, and they thrashed them from the sea. Which means by knowing how that guy is planning to beat you, you can actually find how not to allow them beat you. So Ruto studied Raila until there were intelligence people who are sitting Raila in his own meeting. Some meetings, strategy meeting, there are people with Ruto who are listening. Actually, this happens in both sides, but Ruto really leveraged on that, whereby somebody in charge of Azimio's data was actually Ruto's consultant. That's why when they gave Raila a report that if you can get 35% of Mount Kenya, you win the election. What did Ruto do? After that person who was working for them gave him the report, what did he do? He ensured that this guy cannot get 35%. And if you look at the numbers, he didn't get 30. Just to ensure. So Ruto is not as brilliant. But when he runs against not so brilliant person, then he looks very brilliant. So I don't want to really rate him too high. But if Ruto gets someone with money, with brains, I can tell you 2027 can actually flip from him. We told Raila, when Ruto was being welcomed in US, when the plane was arriving, Dabadi was there, it was a welcome to show the US was him. When we told Raila, say, the US is just fooling Ruto. Now, is he a fool anymore? So all these things were there. The intelligent people like us could see it. But you tell them, Azimio people knew everything and anything. And they could explain to you everything.
There are a number of things you have said there which could counter what you've said. Ruto was a pariah going into the 2022 elections. But towards the end of it, he rehabilitated with the West. And that is a strategy. Two, if you look at 2007 when Raila is supposed to have won, he was with Ruto. And Ruto then left him. Yes, Ruto then left him in 2012 and joined the other side. And they won. And he was there with Uhuru doing the second term against Raila. And he has taken on Raila and he has won. So give him something about his ability to deliver on elections. If you don't want to give him anything else. Okay. Is he a leader? Is he a manager? Is he a what? Economist? Those could be debatable. But on matters, and you're the one who's saying that he walks thinking about how he practices how he's going to win. And he does win. Give it to him. His tricks right from when he joined politics.
But that means if he gets somebody who is astute, brilliant, Ruto must run against a very brilliant candidate for him to have a chance.
I agree.
But if Raila repeats with Ruto, with not changing the teams and the settings and the rest, results will be the very same.
No, the answer is obvious. That Raila is not likely to be different. He's the same. The way he has run is the way he keeps running. So he's likely to be the same.
All right.
Okay.
I want us to look at the issue of the women rep seat being scrapped and also reducing the counties, because I think that has been suggested before by some legislators. We should increase counties. And there were reactions that we don't have sufficient funds to be, funding this huge bloated cabinet, no, not really cabinet, but parliament that we do have right now. There is the Gender Working Party that is being steamrolled by the Ministry of Gender that seeks to add 150 affirmative actions seats for the women. That will bring the number as it stands right now. We have 349 legislators, almost to 500, just if this sails through. Where is the money coming from? The ex-AG thinks we should pare down on, we should likely scrap the women rep seat and reduce the counties. And I think hacking back to 2017, we had Gladys Bostrolay, who actually was coming up with a bill that was seeking to do away with affirmative action. And I think it was not quite received well with the women, and because of being politically correct, she went silent on it. But here we can see the AG advising or maybe floating this to the National Dialogue Committee.
As I said, if this is a constitutional moment, then we need to put in issues that we believe ought to be discussed. Whether scrapping the women rep position, or indeed reducing the number of constituencies, I think this is the point to discuss. What I have said very clearly is that in order for us to have inclusive proportional representation, we must relook at our elective system. We must look at our electoral laws. Generally speaking, if you are going to leave issues of representation or inclusion to the electorate or to the vote, it will not deliver it unless that vote is guided constitutionally and legally, so to speak. You can't, for example, zone out constituencies and say these are for women. You can't. That would be discrimination. Of course, you can say it can be positive discrimination, but at the end of it all, what we need to ask ourselves is that how do we ensure that we have a Kenyan face, we have inclusion, we have people with disability, we have women, we have youth in our political system. Scrapping is the easier bit, but what do you replace it with? What system do you bring that will ensure that there is representation and there is inclusion?
Tightening from the political parties base, because we wouldn't be discussing issues to do with the two-third gender rule if the political parties had rectified this from the roots. This should be representation right from them to.
But even if you change that, as long as nominations are what they are and the elections are what they are, if you are a political party, you nominate a woman, and I am a political party, I nominate a man, and we present those two people to the electorates. If people want a man, they'll vote for a man, not necessarily a woman because I presented a woman. So generally, our elections have shown, in fact, for example, a voter not being rational to the point of giving gender, positive gender discrimination any chance. Most of the times we've seen that because of the nature of our politics, because of the nature of our campaigns, women have a harder time even campaigning and even getting elected. When you look at the entire elections from 2022, you see the pattern of, again, women not making it as much as one would have wanted. So in the terms of elections, we need to relook at it constitutionally, not legally. If the constitution lays it out, then the law should lay it out. But if the constitution remains what it is, and you want to give us an act, or you want to tell political parties to do it, it will not happen. So basically, I'm saying that where this has been achieved, in countries where this has been achieved, it's been through proportional representation. That's how you achieve it. We tell you as a party that give us your list, and for every man, the next is a woman, for every woman, the next is a man. So you give us that list in that way, and we vote for the party, and the party allocates.
Yeah.
So that is the easier way of doing it. Any other way that you want to leave it to the vagaries of a voter, and the way we run our politics today, you will not get it.
So when he had the handy opportunity to advise the president on this, why did he not? As the Attorney General.
Operation Jamii has a bill which it has drafted to change the constitution to solve the same issue. We have suggested the zebra leasing of proportional representation, whereby a party before the election has to give a list of all the possible MPs, senators, governors, everything, and they have to be man, woman, youth, person with disability, in that order until you have the last list. So if a party garners 60% of the votes, you'll get 60% of your list. But what is happening is that, what's unfortunate, I go back to what I told in the beginning. Do you know that Ruto, Raila, all these politicians, including who know the solution to the problem, but they don't want it? Do you know why? Because it takes away the party from them. Because, for example, if ODM prepares a list before nomination, and the list is gazetted by IEBC, then they have no control to make deals. But even UDA the same, all the parties the same. They want this party to belong to them, that they can be able to use it the way they want. Do you know that now when Raila Odinga went to expel these MPs for ODM, if that was the rule, these people could have gone home and they could have no recourse. But even if that can solve his problem, he doesn't want to do it. So the solutions are there. And I would just refer you to the Bible. I'm a church boy. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1-6 says there's nothing new under the sun, which means any problem you have, somebody had it. Dibal, have you ever heard, for example, you are driving a car, then your car just does something strange. Then you go to Google, and then you're being told, no, do this, just wait for 5 minutes, turning, not it'll go. Which means that problem your car is having, somebody had it before. So the challenge about this gender thing, Rwanda is doing very well. Ethiopia is doing very well. It's not there in South Africa. We don't even have to go to Europe. But here, we are cheating ourselves by putting people in Naivasha. There's a time I was in Naivasha, I saw a team of 200 people sitting down, so start discussing how to solve the gender issue. This is a joke, it's a love and speaking, is about per diems and everything else. This is a joke of the century. And we have proposed that bill. Even that bill, media houses don't want to publish it. I don't know why. Standard has never published that bill. We've discussed this lengthily. When PLO Lumumba came with some draft that was not even complete, you guys published it. Because it comes from Fred Ogola. I'm still just trying to say that.
Be strategic. You're the one who talks about strategy.
No, but I've said this bill severally here. No, but I'm saying, maybe we can discuss this off-air.
You didn't call out for making of a noise like President Bayer.
No, but the main reason why you have not published it is that you don't know that I have a bill. You know. And what you choose to take to the media, how you, the criteria you use, the same thing that you experience. But what I'm trying to say is short that the solution is there. Then the second point I have is that senior, there's a problem we have in this country. And I also addressed it in my bill. I said we have 2 levels for government, but we have 3 levels of representation. That's over-representation, because we have the county assembly, isn't it? We have the Senate, then you have the National Assembly, which is Parliament. But with the 2 levels of government, to have 3 levels of representation is over-representation. Then also we talk about numbers. In Texas, is a population between 27 to 29 million people with 1 governor. But here you can have a county with roughly 900,000 with a full governor, senator, isn't it? For me, it does not make sense. Why is Wanjiku suffering? Wanjiku is suffering because politicians have become greedy. And I go back to the same thing. This country do not need rulers and politicians. This country needs to have governance, experts, if you talk about professionals taking over. And I like people giving examples about Singapore. Do you know what has happened in Singapore? Singapore made economists to contest to know who is the best economist. And then they appointed that person to become president. But for us, we want to elect the best politician, then we expect the economy to work. Want to vote for a tribe's person and want the economy to work. How can you vote with your tribe and want your wallet to look better? I know you're going to tell me that still Kenya must be tribal. I agree with you. But then after that, let no one complain. Why are we complaining, yet we are still sticking to what we want? You cannot have your cake and eat it. So you can't have your tribe and still eat well. So if you want to have your tribe, eat your tribe. But let me remind Kenyans that there is nothing called community bank account. I have looked for that bank account, never seen it. There is no Luo bank account. So those people are supporting someone because they are Luos. You know that after that, when someone steals money from your tribe, they put in their bank account. When they speak for Luya people, they put in their bank account, no Luya account. If there's any bank account in KCB, Barclays, that says this is a Kalenjin bank account, it's not there. So even people blaming Kalenjins for supporting Ruto, they don't know that Kalenjins are suffering equally like everybody else. There's no petrol station for Kalenjins. There's no school fees for Kalenjins. Let us move away from those things.
Thank you.
And focus on the true picture that we want to build Kenya. And we must be partisan to the constitution, partisan to the people of Kenya, partisan to Mama Mboga, partisan to Boda Boda, partisan to the people actually who matter. But these things are saying you have some loyalty to a tribe which is amorphous. It doesn't, and Kenyans are more connected economically more than tribe.
I want to fix 2 things. One, our structure is bicameral. It's not 3 levels, it's bicameral. The Senate is there because of the devolution, and devolution is operationalized by the county assembly. So that's one. The national is one looking at the national governance. So it's 2 levels essentially of representation. 2, there is an account. It's called a social capital account. Yes, it's not because if you're looking for it, the tribal account is called social capital. And it's a very big account.
Really?
Yes.
I've never seen it.
Look, we can talk about that off the camera. Equal account in it. You know, the people are just...
It is intangible.
It
is an intangible account.
People are just happy to have one of their own. That is good enough. That's where they draw, and that's where they go and sit in the market and they talk about it. It's called social capital. It's an account.
And that's why we are hungry, because social capital...
Perception is reality.
You cannot withdraw money from it.
Perception is reality.
But you can't withdraw money from it.
No, you do. Because you see, that's where you do your patron client, you know, that's where you depend on the fellow for Arambes. That's why, by the way, that's part of our real problem. Because of that social capital, an MP and any representative is a cash cow, is an ATM.
Moses Kuria called them an ATM of the village.
Yeah. So
Moses Wetangula.
Yeah, because then that is what it is. That then you keep tapping in it. So your money is legitimately theirs. And they'll call you for a fundraising, they'll call you for a burial, they'll call you for a maternity case. The only thing they'll not do is when they're having weddings, they might not call you. But generally, you will be called at every one of them because you are the ATM has to be used.
Right.
And
okay. Allow me just to take a short break. We pay bills here, and when we circle back, we shall be looking also at new development as far as party politics is concerned and the party funding of it, where it is instituted in the constitution that 0.3 shall actually be going to the parties. Now, there is some new development on that particular front that the government is saying this is unsustainable, right? If you just see some of the figures that we're running you by, that UDA got 144 million, ODM 77 million. They say this money that is disbursed to the party or to the parties is unsustainable. And this is bound also to raise a lot of ruckus, so to speak. We shall be looking at that on the other side of the break. Don't go away.